Sure. Here's section 1 of the script, keeping it concise, emotionally engaging, and to the point with a minimum of 500 words. I came home later than usual that night. My head was pounding from back-to-back meetings, and I'd barely eaten all day. Work had been brutal, and honestly, I was already at my limit before lunch. My husband hadn't texted to check in, not unusual anymore. He was out of town again. Chicago this time, or maybe Dallas. I'd stopped keeping track. All I knew was that the silence between us was getting louder, and I didn't have the energy to pretend I didn't notice. The house was too quiet. I kicked off my heels, tossed my bag onto the kitchen counter, and went straight for the wine cabinet. I poured a generous glass, then another. Eventually, I stopped bothering with the glass altogether. I sat on the couch in my robe, half watching some cooking show I didn't care about, and let the wine numb whatever it was I didn't want to feel. I didn't hear the front door open. "Hey," a voice said behind me. I nearly jumped out of my skin. It was my stepson. I'd forgotten he was staying with us for a while. He'd moved back in after his breakup. I turned around a little too fast, and he caught the full picture. Robe, messy hair, an empty bottle on the coffee table. "Didn't mean to scare you," he said, dropping his backpack by the door. No, it's fine," I mumbled, sitting up straighter, suddenly self-conscious. He walked over slowly, eyes scanning the scene. "Rough night. More like a rough year," I muttered, then chuckled. "Didn't expect company." He smiled. "Didn't expect to walk in on a wine massacre." I laughed again, maybe louder than I should have. "Well, you're home early." He nodded. "Yeah. Plans got canceled. Thought I'd come back and get some work done." I waved a hand toward the couch. "By all means, join the pity party." He hesitated for a second, then sat down beside me. There was a strange tension in the air, like we were both aware of something but neither of us wanted to name it. "You okay?" he asked. I shrugged. "Just tired. Lonely. Not that anyone notices." He looked at me carefully. "I notice." His voice was soft. Too soft. I stared at him, blinking slowly, trying to read what was in his eyes. There was concern, sure, but something else too. Admiration, maybe? "No, that couldn't be right." I scoffed. "You're sweet. Your dad used to be sweet too. Before everything became routine." He didn't respond right away. The silence stretched. "I'm glad you're here," I said, more to myself than to him. He looked at me with something different in his expression now, something more direct. "You look different tonight," he said quietly. "Different how?" "I don't know. Just softer. Real." I was about to make a sarcastic remark, but I stopped. There was something in the way he said it that warmed me. I raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Careful. Compliments like that might get you in trouble." He didn't look away. Maybe I don't mind a little trouble. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't either. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. Here is section 2 of the script, continuing directly from the first without repeating content, keeping it focused, sharp, and emotionally charged, with a minimum of 500 words. He handed me a glass of water, and I took it without thinking. My hands were slightly unsteady, and I hated that he noticed. He didn't say anything about it, just sat next to me again, a bit closer this time. "I didn't mean to dump all that on you," I said, trying to sound more composed. "Just venting." "It's fine," he replied. "Honestly, it's nice to hear someone be real." I glanced at him sideways. "You mean depressing?" He smiled. "No. I mean honest. Most people fake it so hard they forget how they actually feel." That made me pause. He wasn't wrong. I'd gotten so good at pretending I was happy, that things were fine, that I didn't feel invisible most days. I suddenly felt exposed, like he could see right through all of it. I leaned back, took a deep breath. "You ever feel like you're living someone else's life? Like you woke up one day and don't even recognize yourself?" "All the time," he said instantly. "That's why I left Emily." I turned to face him. I didn't know the details. He shrugged. "Everyone thought we were perfect, but it felt empty. We stopped talking. Just kind of coexisted." The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been saying the same thing to myself about my marriage for months. There was a long pause. I used to admire how you carried yourself, he said suddenly. Back when I was in high school, you always seemed confident, put together. I scoffed. That was a mask. A good one, I guess. He looked down at his hands, then back at me. You don't need a mask now. There was something dangerous about the way he said it, like he was peeling back layers I'd forgotten I even had. My breath caught slightly, but I tried to play it off. So, when did you become so insightful? He grinned. Probably around the time I realized grown-ups don't have it all figured out either. I laughed softly. You've grown up a lot. Still working on it. Our eyes met again, and this time, neither of us looked away. The energy between us shifted, thicker, heavier. My skin prickled, even though the room wasn't cold. He reached out slowly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers brushed my cheek, and I didn't flinch. You should hear how he talks about you when you're not around, he said. Like you're a chore. Something he tolerates. The word stung more than I expected. I looked down at the floor, swallowing the bitterness rising in my throat. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to be seen, not just tolerated. Something in me cracked at that moment. I felt warm and raw all at once, and maybe it was the wine or the loneliness, or the way his voice didn't carry judgment, but I didn't stop him when his hand moved to mine. I should have. I knew that. But I didn't. Come on, I said quietly, standing. I should get to bed. He nodded, followed me toward the hallway. At my bedroom door, I paused. You can come in, I said, voice barely above a whisper. Just to talk. And he did. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3. Here is Section 3 of the script, continuing the story with sharp focus, emotional intensity, and no repetition, meeting the 500-word minimum. He sat down near the edge of the bed while I stayed standing for a moment, uncertain of what I was doing or why I hadn't stopped any of this. My heart was pounding, not just from nerves, but from something deeper I hadn't felt in years. Attention.
Desire.
I sat beside him. Not too close, not far enough. The silence filled every corner of the room. This is probably a bad idea, I said, more to myself than to him. Probably, he replied, calm but sure. I looked over at him, waiting for guilt or shame to crash into me, but instead, I saw someone looking at me like I was wanted. Really wanted. Not out of habit. Not out of obligation. Just because. I don't think I've ever hated myself more and wanted something this badly at the same time, I whispered. His hand reached out and covered mine gently. Then stopped thinking. Just feel it. That should have been the moment I pulled away, left the room, shut the door. But I didn't. I stared at our hands, at the way his thumb moved over my skin so slowly. He wasn't rushing anything. He wasn't asking for permission. He was simply there, present in a way no one had been with me in years. I'm not sure I'll be able to look you in the eye tomorrow, I said, half laughing. Then don't look away tonight. It wasn't smooth. It wasn't perfect, but it felt terrifyingly honest. I leaned toward him, closing the space between us like I wasn't in control anymore. His lips met mine softly at first, testing, unsure. I kissed him back harder than I meant to. I stopped. He pulled away. I leaned in again. Every thought I should have had vanished. The lines I'd drawn in my mind blurred with every breath. My robe slipped off my shoulder, and he didn't even look down. He looked at me, directly, like I was the only thing that mattered in that moment. We didn't speak for a long time after. There were no promises, no reassurances. Just heat and hunger, and the quiet collapse of all my better judgment. When it was over, I lay there staring at the ceiling, unable to speak. He turned his head toward me. You okay? No, I replied. But I don't regret it. He reached for my hand again, and I let him hold it. I should have felt disgusting.
Guilty.
Ashamed. But instead, I felt like I had just remembered who I was before life made me forget. And maybe that was worse. Then my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. My husband. Landing early. Be home tomorrow night.
Can't wait to see you.
I locked the phone without replying. My heart sank, not out of fear, but confusion. The stepson was watching me closely, like he already knew what the message meant. "I should go," he said softly. I didn't stop him, but I didn't want him to leave either. He stood, hesitated at the door. "I meant it," he said. "I don't regret any of this." And then he was gone. Ready when you are for Section 4. Here is Section 4 of the script, concluding the story with emotional clarity, clean pacing, and a sharp focus on consequences and unresolved desire at the required length. The next morning felt colder than it should have. I woke up alone, the imprint of what we did still fresh on my skin. I stared at the empty space beside me, half expecting him to still be there, but also relieved he wasn't. Guilt didn't come in waves, it settled like a weight in my chest. I went through the motions of the day numb and mechanical, avoiding eye contact every time I passed him in the hallway. We didn't speak. He didn't try. Neither did I. By evening, the house felt different. Like something sacred had been broken, and now we were just moving through the remains, pretending not to notice the cracks. I cooked dinner out of habit. He didn't come down. I left a plate on the counter and went back to my room. I kept checking my phone, reading that last message from my husband over and over again. I should have felt something for him, panic, remorse, love, but I didn't. Just a dull ache that I couldn't explain. I tried to rehearse what I'd say when he got home. Something safe. Something normal. Something that didn't reveal the truth buried just beneath my skin. When he finally walked through the door that night, everything felt too loud. His voice, his presence, the sound of his keys hitting the counter. He kissed me like nothing had changed. Maybe for him, nothing had. I smiled, nodded, acted grateful, and answered every question with care. I played the role well. Too well. The stepson kept his distance. He avoided being in the same room with both of us. But when our eyes did meet, even for a second, the silence between us roared. 3 days later, I found a folded piece of paper under my coffee mug in the kitchen. No name, but I knew the handwriting. "I know what we did can't be undone. I'm not asking for you to destroy your life. I just need you to know I meant every word. I see you. I want you. I'd wait for you if there was even a chance. But I can't pretend nothing happened. I can't forget it. And I don't want to." I read it twice, then folded it again and tucked it into my purse. I didn't respond. I didn't throw it away either. The next morning, he was gone. Took his things, left no note. My husband assumed he'd just decided to stay with friends or needed space. I didn't correct him. Days passed. Then weeks. I thought the memory would fade, but it didn't. I still felt the way he touched my hand. The way he looked at me like I was worth something more than routine. I never told anyone. I went back to smiling. Hosting. Sleeping beside a man who never noticed how much of me was missing. But sometimes, late at night, I'd catch myself reaching for that letter, just to remind myself it was real. Because even if nothing changed on the outside, everything inside me had.